Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Lately there's been a rising conversation in the Dead by Daylight community about killer viability. It started with Tru3Ta1ent playing Ghostface, but seemed to reach a clamor when he announced that Wraith vied for the third best killer spot along with Ghostface. Then, Otzdarva came along and gave his take to Tru's opinion, and Tru responded. With both of these opinions in the same video, I thought I would give my take on the issue because it differs from both of their opinions on a more fundamental level. I'm sure I don't need to since they're much more well known than I am, but I'll be linking their channels below. Follow and sub to them if somehow you haven't already. Anyway, let's hit that intro, then I'll get started on my breakdown of the viability conversation. So, like I said, I'm going to go through Tru's response video to Otzdarva because it has both of their opinions in it. That means I'll be pausing the video from time to time to get my take on things. I'll also be cutting the video just a bit here and there, mostly just taking out dead air or moments when the topic isn't being discussed. Ready? Here we go!
Green poggers. Alright, let's see. Let's see what he's saying.
Hello friends, this is Otz, and today I'm going to be giving you my thoughts on what is probably currently the hottest topic of discussion in the
For some reason, like, it's just...
For some reason? True, come on man. You're one of the most popular DVD streamers and content creators out there. You have a huge following, and with that following comes clout. Your opinion is extremely important to both your followers and to people who don't like you. As a fog whisperer, it shouldn't be surprising that your opinion can make waves in this community.
Just my opinion.
Anyway, you're probably well aware of it. If not, I'll make it explain in just a second. The epicenter of this earthquake is very popular streamer Tru3Ta1ent. For some months now, Tru3Ta1ent has been toying with a very interesting playstyle. He's been playing Ghostface, a character that he absolutely adores. And instead of focusing
Now
on
that
his
riff.
of
Alright,
his
is that
kit
better?
to run a very interesting build, which is all about hit and run, split pressure, keep everybody injured, keep everybody guessing, and slowly picking them up one by one. He's had a lot of success with this build. He really enjoys it and has made many videos.
I want to say, we've been playing Wraith even with your guys' builds, and we're like, I think like 21 and 22 4-mans out of 23 games still. Like, he's still doing really well.
Now, when Tru says this, he's referring to playing with requested perks. He doesn't really change the add-ons. And this is where you'll find the crux of my issue with his claim. But, more on that later.
And check them out. And at one point he proclaimed that in his view, Ghostface was the top third killer in the game, behind of course Nurse and Spirit. And some people raised an eyebrow, but some people also saw the merit of this idea, and nothing really ever came out of it.
No, but it's really...
Until...
no one really attacked the Ghostface.
He started doing the same thing with the Wraith.
Yeah.
And then all...
One thing I want to say with that is it's so interesting that with Ghostface, everyone's just fine with it. But with the Wraith, it's such more of a taboo thing to say. But if you actually look at Ghostface and the Wraith, they're so similar with how they play. But yeah.
Okay, no one questioned Ghostface because it's the killer they didn't question. In this case, the killer is good. Ghostface is a good killer, top-tier killer. The proclamation of the Wraith being a top-tier killer is being pushed back on because the killer is not good.
Hell broke loose. He used a similar approach with the Wraith, used a combination of add-ons and perks to mimic this same playstyle, and he proclaimed that the Wraith was the fourth best killer in the game. And some people
One thing I pull these killers out.
that had seen him play the Wraith very successfully kinda agreed. Some other people, many other people in fact, considered this to be absolutely ludicrous. He had the sheer audacity to express his opinions.
Not all spam though. But they
of
were the
course,
ones
some people
kind of
pointed
like,
out
why are you talking
valid
about it?
criticism, and he is a public figure. He should accept criticism.
Otz has a point here. When you're a public figure, criticism comes your way more often and more publicly. It's just something you have to accept. It's how you react to it that's the driving force behind the kind of criticism you get in the future. Hell, on Twitter, the forums, and a few PMs elsewhere, I get praise for my ideas, suggestions, and observations that is then quickly twisted by people following up with something like, "This would be a great idea if you weren't a fur fag." Or, "Hey, this would be really funny if you weren't a furry." It's just something I have to deal with. But they do acknowledge that my ideas are good, so I take that and let the insults roll off. It's just something that you have to get used to doing.
But some people, they took the easy way out. They just mocked him, didn't really add anything to the conversation, and that really didn't help. Either side proved their points, basically. At any rate, Tru3Ta1ent has constantly stated that all he wants to do is start a conversation and have a debate. So that's what I'm trying to do today. I'm going to try to sell this matter and see the merit of his ideas and see why some of the criticisms might also be perfectly valid.
I also want more killers to be
have a look at this build and see how he's managed to do so well with it. Let's have a look over here.
I agree with you, Tru. More viable killers at the highest level of play is a good thing. The question becomes, is it the killer that's viable, or the build? Luckily, Oz is about to help us find out.
This is his build, his preferred build. We have...
It might go onto it, but it doesn't need to be pink and purple. I'm just using them because I have them. It does, ideally, need to be something which makes the bell better, because his default bell is shit, in my opinion. It's not that good.
So, if you don't have something to mute or muffle the sound of the bell, is it good? Is the Wraith still viable? Also, I know later on in the video, Tru acknowledges that he should change the rarity of add-ons, but he uses these same two add-ons for the majority of his games.
So either the pink or the yellow will do kind of the same thing. The yellow will have to be more of a mind game, but it pretty much will do the same thing. And this, once again, this doesn't even add that much more than the yellow. I believe the yellow is 140%, and this goes up to like 150, so it adds like 12% more movement speed, which is obviously nice. But as long as you've got speed and you've got a bell add-on, they both could be yellow, it still should work, his tactic. That's what I'll be doing the day of Wraith with the yellows.
To slow down the game. It's a passive perk. He doesn't have to worry about it from the very beginning of the game. It's slowing down early gen repairs. It might last long or little, but it's there doing its job. Sloppy Butcher is a very, very important part of his kit. He wants to keep people injured for as long as possible. Instead of committing to one chase, he will try to keep as many people injured as possible and get the most value out of it. The idea is to trick people into either healing and wasting time and opening themselves up, or not healing and being vulnerable. Thanophobia is a perk that by itself is very weak, but in this build it kind of ties it all together. It makes Ruin that tiny little bit nastier, which is never bad, and it also makes Sloppy even more threatening. If you manage to hit multiple survivors, Thanophobia stacks up, and the slowdown affects basically everyone. This can also have the effect to trick survivors into healing, and once they do heal, Nurse's Calling comes into effect. Nurse's Calling allows you to see survivors who are healing, and for a killer that can suppress his terror radius, this is huge, because he can really creep up to survivors and get that second hit in. And the reason he can do this is because one of his add-ons of choice is the Coxcomb Clapper. The Coxcomb Clapper completely nullifies the sound of your bell. It allows...
So the add-on makes the Wraith's power good, when originally, as Tru pointed out, it was shit. So far, the Wraith's power is shit unless you have these add-ons. And since the Wraith is basically just his power, wouldn't that make the Wraith shit unless you have these add-ons?
You to hear a generator being worked on, sneak up behind it, come out of the corner and grab a survivor or get that first hit in. And once they're healing, do the exact same thing and down them. So this build completely, at least in theory, completely...
But you can use the yellow. It's pretty much the same. But yeah.
Again, you can use the yellow add-ons, which can do pretty much the same thing to make the power not shit, but otherwise, it's still shit.
Common looping, and instead tries to find survivors out of position. And the other thing that really helps is the Windstorm family of add-ons, which he also uses in conjunction with this. The Windstorm family of add-ons makes you move faster while you cloak. This allows you to be able to check on generators yourself without barbecue, discordant, surveillance, or anything with that, and get the most value out of Ruin, out of Sloppy, out of Thana, and out of Nurse's Calling especially.
I mean, 150% movement speed while cloaked? You're moving, what, as fast or faster than Legion in Feral Frenzy? You've improved the Wraith's speed beyond that of another killer's speed-increasing power. This is definitely making the Wraith a better killer.
He will often run this add-on in one of its varieties, and either the Coxcomb Clapper, which is the best choice, or the Bone Clapper, which is a yellow add-on. Instead of nullifying the sound entirely, it muffles it so that survivors can't tell where you're coming.
You'll never be able
It's
to
also
tell.
very effective.
Okay, so again, Tru later acknowledges that he needed to use a variety of the rarity of add-ons to get a better idea of Wraith after watching Otz's video. But his opinion was derived from using these specific add-ons or their slightly lesser versions with no deviation apart from different perks. One add-on removes the bell's noise, which makes his power shit otherwise, and the other cranks his speed past that or equal to that of Legion's Feral Frenzy. These add-ons buff the Wraith and the Wraith's performance significantly.
If you're using that add-on and you're constantly chasing, unchasing, you're going to hit so many bells throughout the whole entire game. You can't just keep being like, oh, is he here? Oh, is he here? Is he here? You can't keep doing that because it's just too consistent. You hear it all the time, so eventually you just need to commit to a gen. And if he is here, well, there you go, he just got you.
So with one of these combinations, Tru3Ta1ent has done actually quite well for himself. In fact, you'll see that he posted a full VOD of 16 games that he played back-to-back one day, and these are the results. I've compiled the information myself, and we can see that he played in a variety of maps. I've color-coded them very, very quickly. Yellow.
I believe that he's color-coded these by difficulty. I don't know Badham about Orange. Badham's kind of a rough one.
Yellow maps,
But it
orange
depends.
maps,
It depends
so-so.
on.
Green maps, favorable for killer. Red maps, not so good for killer. You can see that there's a variety.
depends
There are
on
some
the-
very bad maps for killer here, and he
as
managed
well.
to do just fine. In fact, out of his 16 games, one of them was cancelled because someone DC'd early. Out of his 16
Basically,
games, he had a 4K in every single game. That's pretty impressive. Only one game, survivors actually managed to pull through and all escape. So, let's get. How did he do this? Did Ruin carry him? Well, that was my first thought. Let's have a look. No, Ruin did not help that much. There were games where Ruin absolutely helped and stayed up the whole game, and there were also games where Ruin was gone in 30 seconds. Either way, it didn't seem like a deciding factor in whether he did really well or did it or the game went badly. So even though
It's
I
got
think
Dark
Ruin
Souls
is
music in the background.
absolutely a staple of this Ruin of this.
Yeah, look at that. 37 seconds, 27 seconds, still a 4-man on a difficult map. What about this? 32 seconds on a difficult map, still a 4-man. And that's a really long map. You need speed on that map. But that was a long one.
Rather, it wasn't what really made it happen. What I think explains this success a little bit more
That's a really difficult map in my opinion too. It's got many god roots and many safe pallets you actually need to break. And that was a 26-second one.
is the next piece of information, and that's
Try
the
that
add-on.
one.
Ding 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 ding! Show him what he's won, Johnny! 2, technically 4 add-ons, which erase or extremely nullify everything bad about the Wraith's power. At this point, is the Wraith viable, or is it the add-ons and build that's viable?
That he
Some other
used.
stuff.
Now here is where we come at an impasse, where we have a
Yeah,
bit
this
of a
is
problem.
this is where people started to being like, well, you're using this. The only reason I'm using this is because it's just more, like, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have used it. Maybe I should have used this. But as you can see, when I do use these, it's the same outcome. It's literally the exact same outcome, and nothing changed. But yeah, I will probably go on to. I mean, look at this. This is Rancid Abattoir, 27-second Ruin with 2 yellow format. But yeah, I should have just done all yellow add-ons. Now I realise.
Okay, so this is where he acknowledges that he should have used all yellow add-ons, but not different types of add-ons. just not the most powerful versions of the add-ons that he's focused on. And this is where the debate comes in. Is the Wraith viable, or is the build viable? Would Tru have gotten different results if he had used the Blink, Swift Hunt, or All-Seeing families of add-ons? Is Wraith as good with those add-ons? If not, then the Wraith's viability status, from Tru's perspective, should change, because the factor his viability rests on is the add-ons he's bringing into the game to make the Wraith better than he normally would be.
One thing that many critics of Tru don't understand is that the way he judges victory is ranking. I personally don't do that. I win, in my view, if I kill everyone, or if I kill most of them.
Okay, so this is another very touchy subject, and it's extremely subjective. Tru will go on to say that it's a points-based game, so he sees winning by pipping up. Oz feels that killing most or all of the survivors is a win. Killing as many of the survivors as you can is the killer's goal, so this is also an understandable way to consider if you've won a game or not. Both views are very justifiable. Personally, I'm a bit of both. I can pip up and only kill 2 people and still feel like I lost. However, I can safety pip and kill all 4 survivors and feel like I won and got cheated by the emblem system. It's not my fault I played too efficiently or won quickly, is it?
For Tru3Ta1ent, he wants to pip. He wants to rank up. Sometimes he will kill 4 people and then be upset because he got a brutal killer.
Not upset at the outcome, upset at the scoring system.
Like that, most people are.
Exactly true. The scoring system just needs a rework. 4 kills can result in a DPIP, and that's not right. On the flip side, surviving can still result in a DPIP, and that's not right either. Granted, these are extreme occurrences, but they can happen in the current scoring system.
But that's how he plays. And in that regard, the Wraith is an amazing, amazing killer. Because he comes out of cloaking and then ends the chase immediately, because the chase begins when he comes out of cloaking, he gets a lot of chaser. With Ruin and being able to interrupt survivors early, he can get a very decent gatekeeper. And if you keep everybody injured with Sloppy and so on, you'll get all the chasing you'll get all the emblems. You will rank up very, very well with Wraith.
Oh yeah, it was.
But the same could be said of Legion, and Legion isn't necessarily strong. So
I don't think
why
Legion
are
would
these
do as well as
add-ons an issue? Now, some people have already pointed this out. They've told Tru, hey, but you were running very strong add-ons. So, you know, that nullifies your opinion. And what Tru has responded so far, at least from what I've seen, is that, well, you know, add-ons are a part of the killer. So if the killer can use these add-ons to be viable, that's not a problem.
Okay, so this is where my opinion differs from Tru's and Oz's opinions. As I say in my tier list, I rank killers according to their base kits. No add-ons, no perks. In my opinion, if a killer needs add-ons and perks to be good, to be viable, then they are not. This use of only 2 add-on families being used in Tru's Wraith build sort of proves my point. He never deviates from the Clapper and Windstorm families. Because of this, Wraith's viability is tied directly to his add-ons and not his base kit. Without these specific add-ons, I'm betting that Wraith wouldn't be so well regarded by Tru, because without them, his power is nowhere near as good as Ghostface's during a chase.
But that's missing the point. It is missing the point entirely. Because if Wraith is allowed to use these add-ons, then to compare him
Gonna talk about iridescent head and stuff.
fairly to other killers, you should also allow them to use add-ons of this level of rarity. And let me tell you right now, I know a hunters or 2 or 3 or 10 that if they use iridescent hatchets like this build would allow every game.
Well, iridescent head's probably most likely going to get nerfed, but yeah.
Or 75% of the games, they would never, ever, ever lose, ever. Or a good plague that runs the Black Incense add-on, which can
honestly never lose with iridescent heads. I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, yeah, it's really good for the 1v1, but it doesn't get the map pressure going. So, I don't know, man. But then, what are you talking about by winning? Are you talking about winning as a 4-man, or are you talking about winning as ranking up? I class winning as ranking up because...
Okay, hold on. You're not wrong, but then again, you also acknowledge that this is a problem where the point system comes in. If a killer gets a 4K, they've won by achieving their objective, but they'll only rank up if they achieve their objective in certain ways. Playing too efficiently as a killer can stop you from ranking up. Hell, playing too efficiently as a killer can still get you hit by DS even if you didn't tunnel. So, I mean, that's counterproductive to their role. Again, this is a point where both sides of the discussion are correct, but the primary issue is that the point system needs to be reworked to reflect the killer doing what it's supposed to do to the best of their ability in a ranked game.
Literally, why would you not rank up if you won something in a game? So I just go from it from a logical point of view. So this is where you and I will end up disagreeing with him. Yeah, maybe. Like, Tru3Ta1ent is very strong, it's probably going to get nerfed. But will it be as consistent formatting every game, no matter how big the map? I don't know.
Okay, so I'm just going to leave a link to that Saltiest Huntress build video in the description. You might want to reconsider that because you straight up say, at this point, I'm just toying with them in the video.
I think you'd probably have to slug, most likely. And also, if you were doing this, you could only use iridescent head for these, and then you'd have to start using some yellows.
Except that there's nothing at all in the Huntress's add-ons which allow anything remotely close to the effect of iridescent heads, so the same experiment can't really be pulled off with similar results. Silent to muffled isn't equivalent to insta-down to mangled, or hemorrhaged, exhausted, whatever. It's just not equivalent, so you can't do this experiment with the Huntress in the way that you say.
And then once again, talking about the add-on stuff, Billy's best stuff are green and yellow. So, and his pinks and stuff are kind of pointless. So is that him using his weaker add-ons now because he's not using his pinks? Add-ons are such a fucking weird one. But yeah, I will go back to yellows, etc. But it's such an unfair thing putting this as pink and this is yellow, and like, I don't think the devs have balanced add-ons correctly. But yeah, whatever.
Completely gives you tracking over everyone.
But don't have any pink
They
add-ons.
will
Purple.
never, ever lose. These add-ons are pretty bonkers.
It's purple on
Wraith is on steroid with these add-ons. But you could argue, well, you can tell that towards the end, he started using different add-ons. He started to go to yellow rarity, and in fact, he's planning on doing this exact same experiment, but only with yellow add-ons to prove that the Wraith is the top killer.
So, working with only yellow add-ons doesn't mean Tru will be expanding his add-on selection. If he sticks with Clapper and Windstorm add-ons, even if he does go with yellow only, this doesn't show the Wraith's viability. It only serves to showcase the strength of these particular add-ons, not the strength of the Wraith.
But this also misses the point, because if he does achieve this, and I'm sure he will, what he's proving is that the Wraith is viable, and that he is good, and that you can use clever combinations of add-ons and perks to make him shine.
Except these aren't clever combinations. They're the same combination, just at a different rarity and level of effect. It would be a clever combination if he didn't use Clapper and Windstorm all the way down. The only thing this is proving is that regardless of perks, these add-ons can still carry the Wraith, regardless of their rarity.
He's not proving, however, that this makes him better than other killers. Perhaps this makes him better than other killers with his own playstyle, his own
The thing is, it's through theory. It's very hard to like prove because you need to just get such big sample sums of every single killer, and then you need to. It is definitely quite hard to kind of prove.
Okay, so Tru is making another good point here, and that is that his opinion is based on theory and observation through sampled experience. However, in my view, any data that you glean about a killer's viability is tainted the moment you use add-ons or perks to enhance them. Once you do that, you can't say, this killer is a viable killer. You have to instead say, this killer with these additional things makes them a viable killer. I'd even go so far as to say that it's not a viable killer, but that this killer with these additional things creates a viable build, leaving the word killer entirely out of that second half.
But it's through theory, and my theory is if you play a killer where survivors know that you're coming, and you have to do the loot game versus them, that's going to be a less viable killer unless they are outstanding at 1v1, i.e. Spirit or Nurse. If they're not...
Okay, so this is another good point. A stealth killer like Ghostface, Wraith, or Pig has an extreme advantage over other killers in that they can get in close without alerting the survivors too much. But in my tier list, I rank Ghostface and Pig higher than the Wraith because their powers are not as add-on or perk reliant as the Wraith's is, and their base kit allows them to do things apart from just sneak up on survivors, and they can use their abilities mid-chase without alerting the entire map as to what they're doing, and still mind game survivors.
Not outstanding at 1v1s, then you're going to have a hard time because you're basing it on the survivor's mistakes. If you have a killer who can sneak up before they get to the loops, there's more potential in that killer. So it's based mainly on a theory, and then trying to prove said theory through observation of playing the killer in that way. Also, when I do play other killers, I'm not as consistent as well, as you can see on stream. So there is that too. It's not like I'm not playing the other killers. I do play the other killers. I don't play the other killers as a whole day, but you know I play all the other killers, and you know it's not as consistent as this, right? So...
Okay, so yeah, that's true. Tru is not as consistent with other killers, but the other killers, barring like Huntress with iridescent heads or maybe Tombstone Myers, they don't have add-ons which completely nullify the negatives in their base kit. The add-ons Tru uses with Wraith make him a much better killer than he actually is, or would be without those add-ons. And this is why I look to base kits in my tier list for viability, and not to builds that can make or enhance the killer's ability to kill every now and again. Add-on use isn't consistent, so judging killers' viability with add-ons, which make them so much better than they actually are, isn't a logical way to judge their viability because there's no consistency in performance with random add-ons got from a blood web.
And also another thing, I don't main the Wraith. I just randomly just started playing the Wraith for this day, and we got 4-mans all day. It's not like I just play Wraith and got really good at Wraith. I just jumped on Wraith. So there's that too. It's not like I'm a Wraith main, and because I'm a Wraith main, I'm at this skill level with Wraith. I just jumped on Wraith.
That should tell Tru something. Tru's not a Wraith main, but he did this well using these powerful add-ons all day. These were the only consistent thing about his playstyle all day. Perks changed, but these add-ons stayed the same, and because of that, he doesn't main the Wraith, but he was able to 4K all day long by getting rid of all of the negatives of the killer's base kit powers. Anyone who doesn't main a specific killer is naturally going to do better when they use the most powerful add-ons the killer has available to them, especially someone at Tru's level, who gets pretty consistent 4Ks even when faced with the very top echelon of survivors pitted against him.
Experience his own gameplay preferences, but that doesn't mean that the Wraith is subjectively stronger than other killers who would do the same. And to try to prove this, I did a bit of an experiment myself. In my own streams, I started playing Trapper and taking the time to write down the results of my games.
So OTZ mains Trapper, right? He's a Trapper main, so this is his strongest killer.
Tru is correct here, and there will be differences in results when it comes to a person playing their main killer and someone playing a killer with its most powerful add-ons, even if they don't main that killer.
Difference. Wraith isn't my strongest killer, I just jumped on him for that one day. Okay? Trapper's his main. He's like the god Trapper or whatever, right?
I did this over the course of 16 games, just like Tru, and I made sure to use no ruin on any of my games. You guys know Trapper is one of the slower killers in the game to set up. So
it is hard. It's a hard one
any perk,
because it's all about the survival skill.
These were my results.
Okay, so this, in my opinion, is still similar to what Tru did with the Wraith. All of these add-ons increase the amount of traps that Trapper can carry and start with, and they increase the speed he sets his traps. The only exception is the game where he doesn't use any add-ons and still gets to 3K. So again, even in Oz's case, you're not seeing the viability of the Trapper, you're seeing the viability of the Trapper when the downside that is supposed to be in his kit to balance his power is removed or negated in some manner. But let's also keep in mind that Otz did not use Ruin in his games, while Tru used Ruin in every single one of his games. And while Ruin doesn't make a huge difference in some of those games, it makes a massive impact in the others. And Tru has said in his videos that any impact with Ruin is worth it, because it slowed down the game for that long, even if it meant that it goes down in 30 seconds. That's a critical few seconds that the survivors aren't on gens or were slowed down by Ruin. However, what we also see here is that Trapper isn't getting consistent 4Ks when he's using some of his best add-ons, and the Trapper is regarded by the community, as well as myself, as superior to Wraith. Now, there is a difference between Tru's level of skill and Otz's level of skill, but there's also a difference in approach. Tru takes a no mercy, kill them all approach, while Otz doesn't really care about the results so much as ranking and stuff like that, so he does occasionally give the hatch. So some of these 3Ks could have been 4Ks.
I also had a fair amount of good.
So 3-3, so that means that it could be a trapdoor escape. Depends if it's slugging, I don't know what it does. Oh no, 1 gen, there you go. Okay, so it looks like it was trapdoor escapes. So 3-3, 4-3, 4-2. Oh, we're a key. 3, 4, 3, 4, 4. Go.
Good map maps. And as you can tell, sometimes it was a 3 kill because I gave the hatch or because I didn't care.
Okay, so once again, this is another key difference. How many of those 3Ks would have been 4Ks if Oz didn't give a survivor the hatch? It's something to consider. Though, in the future Oz, if you're trying to compare stats, you should try to mimic the results as closely as possible. Tru used a no-mercy mindset in his games. This is something you should have done to better show results. But I understand that you guys are 2 different players and you play for 2 different reasons, so I understand why you did it. But just for the sake of comparison, when you do something like this, you should try and keep the results as similar as possible by adhering to the same rules as possible when it comes to letting people out.
And most of the times it was 4 kills. I did not care very much about the ranking system.
This is very interesting. See, I think this is where we differ. On my Wraith, I got Ruthless and Merciless pretty much every game. Yeah, pretty much every game. And even the one I lost... No, the one I lost, I think it was Entity Displeased, right? Was it? I think it was. But pretty much all we didn't get Brutal Killer. To get Brutal Killer in a 4K, so are you slugging then? It's something what's going to be the one thing that's kind of a bit awkward, because you can technically 4-man with every killer by slugging and one-hooking everyone. That's not how I see it. I see viability, being able to multiply chase and multiply hook and actually win in the sense of ranking up with every killer versus any type of team. I do think versus any type of team you possibly could draw, which is a brutal killer.
Okay, so this is very true. However, in his videos, Tru will say that killers cannot afford to go on multiple chases with multiple survivors because at the highest skill level, there's no way a killer has enough time to do that and still have a chance of winning, which, in his opinion, means pipping up. I've watched games where Tru slugs on purpose to get the 3K or 4K and admits that if he didn't, he couldn't win. I think this is another issue of the game where the power belongs to the survivors and it's the killer's job to catch up. It also doesn't help that the point system doesn't reflect getting as many kills and instead looks at multiple chases and hooks, when at high levels of play that just isn't possible when you have to kill someone early or slug multiple people to stand a chance. This is the reason that killers like Spirit and Nurse are so highly prized. They can end 1v1s fast and then move across the map quickly to find other survivors without the need to slug.
Yeah, he mains this killer, so this is his strongest killer too, and I did better with someone I don't main, but I were using better add-ons.
Precisely! If it's the add-ons that you can attribute to your success, like Tru just did, then it's not the killer that's viable. It's the build or the add-ons that's viable.
No, I have heard he is a really...
Actually, we should also point out, Tru used Ruin in every single one of his games, got better results, still used better add-ons. Oz used no Ruin in any of his games, got would have gotten very similar results to Tru if he hadn't been giving away the hatch. And I'm guessing right here, someone hadn't gotten a key.
Again, as you can tell, I never ever deranked, ever. All these games were either at rank 1 or rank 2. At one point, I started using brown add-ons, and I also tracked how many generators were left by the time the game was finished. And they never...
But, to be fair, do the brown add-ons compared to the higher add-ons, unless pink, I guess, do they do too much with Trapper? It's just carrying more traps, right?
Hold up.
Wait, do they do much for Trapper? In 14 of his games, he uses Trapper Sack, which doubles the amount of traps he starts with and doubles the amount of traps he can carry. In 2 games, he uses Trapper Bag, which doubles the amount of traps he starts with and triples the amount of traps he can carry. Tru plays Trapper. He should know how crucial carrying just 1 trap is while chasing a survivor. Carrying 2 or 3 traps is so much better. And those aren't even the best bag add-ons. Doubling his starting traps means less early game prep time. More traps able to be carried means more gameplay options for setup and for chasing. I think we can fairly say that yes, those do affect Trapper immensely.
It's kind of a weird one with add-ons Trapper. Like, this is pretty much near enough the same, except just 1 less trap, right? Bag add-ons are the best, yeah. So even that this is brown, it's only 1 less trap than yellow, right? Didn't I main rave? Yeah, 3 years ago.
ever got to the 5th generator. They never finished the fifth one. Ever. Without Ruin. What does this mean? Am I a god trapper who's absolutely unstoppable? No. Am I using odds cheats? Yes, but that's past the point. No, what it means is that any killer who tries and uses a good combination of perks and actually has a bit of a plan has a really good chance to do well. Does it mean that you can 4K every single game with every single killer? No. But is that really what viable means? I hope.
Okay, so here we see another difference, and it's something I try to hammer home in my tier list. Anyone can do well with any killer with enough practice. But that does not make the killer viable. It makes the player good with using that killer's tactics. And even then, both Tru and Oz are making these points with the assumption that you're using perks and add-ons to enhance the killer's ability to consistently get at least 2 kills. You're adding things to the killer's viability, not checking the killer's viability before making them better.
Not. We're playing against other people. I also think that the people that I'm versing have a chance to outplay me. I don't feel like the game owes me a 4K every game. If I 4K'd every game, in fact, there will be something wrong with the game. Just because I have...
4King isn't the thing, it's getting a win when you've played well. Getting a draw when you've played well is not a very nice feeling. For him to get a brutal killer... Well, there's only 2 kills there though. But how is he getting brutal killer? How the hell is he getting brutal killer with 4 kills? I don't understand what he's doing. Is he not getting many hooks? That's why I think it is best going off this. The devs definitely need to get some of the scoring system better because it's fucking stupid some of it.
Thank you! Something we can all at least agree on. The point system is bad.
But this is a way better indication of how well you've done because it puts everything into it. It puts how many chases were done. It puts how quick the chases were done. It puts how many hooks that you've got. It puts how many hits that you've got. It puts how much time you've delayed off them. It does everything into the score.
But it doesn't account for what some killers can do at their full potential, and what some killers have to do in order to get their kills. Each killer has its own playstyle, but the scoring system scores them all the same without taking into account how fast they can take down a whole team of survivors, or if their powers encourage them to slug or draw the game out in a way that is not good for the scoring system.
Just the arbitrary 4K, 3K, 2K, but it doesn't tell you what happened in the match. That could have been the end of the game. That could have been the start of the game. So I don't like this being the thing. I think there's way too many variables with this. This is the thing that I aim for. That's the reason I aim for it.
But that is a reflection of a flawed point system. The point system is based around how much you entertained the entity, how you chased, how you hooked multiple times to drive fear and hope, etc. But a themed point system like that is a poor way to go when you have a game with a ranking system played by people who are going to try and fulfill their role to the best and most efficient way and don't think about the lore-based reason behind the point system. The point system needs a hard rework because it's based on lore and not people actually playing to the game to the best of their ability. It's fine to have lore in the game. I love lore. RPGs are my favorite type of game because of all the lore that goes into them. But you can't have a ranked-based game with a score system that doesn't reflect the player's ability to perform their role well, and instead opt for a system that instead looks at the game's lore. The two simply don't mix if you're really wanting them to work as well as possible.
2,000 or 3,000 hours, it doesn't mean that I will always outplay my opponent, right? I honestly believe that every single killer is viable.
Okay, Otz, I really like you, but every killer is viable? I cannot agree with that. Some killers are not viable in a competitive environment. Most Mouse 1 killers simply do not hold a candle to the others. And even killers with insta-down capability like Bubba are outclassed by killers with no insta-down abilities like Hag or Pig, while others like Doctor and Plague are very closely tied with Bubba's kill rates. The statistics just don't add up. Not every killer is viable.
And Tru, what he should do is give this exact same raid treatment to other killers. Maybe take the time to learn different playstyles more suited to each specific killer. And I think he would find out that if you put that time and love into each killer, all of them can shine.
Yes, a player with enough time on a killer can become proficient with that killer, but that doesn't change the fact that that killer isn't viable, or that the killer is proficient at bringing down survivors as other killers.
Some of them, of course, more than others. You will.
I hope he knows I do play every killer.
You need to be a very, very good doctor or a very, very good clown to keep up with a very good nurse or a very good spirit. That's absolutely for sure. That's why tier lists exist, and that's why we compare killers. But that doesn't mean that none of them are viable. You can rank up with all of them. Name me any killer, I will tell you one person.
You can rank up with all of them, but it's because of the survivors you're going against, right? So basically, it's hard for me to prove my vision, my idea. The only way I'd be able to prove it is if the devs actually did have a really strict ranking system, and then you'd have really strict ranking systems to rank 1, and then you'd only go against the best rank 1 survivors. If you did always go against the best rank 1 survivors because the ranking system was harder to rank up, you would probably, I mean, I only can guess, but I feel you would see what I'm talking about, where it is up to the survivors to make mistakes, and the only way to win said survivors is to slug, and then is to one-hook everyone, because you cannot have enough time in the game to go for 12 chases, because that's what I go for. I like going for multiple chases. That's fun. I feel that when you go against the strongest teams, at best you're probably only going to get like 1 chase, maybe 2 chases at most, with each of the survivors before you have to get them on that death hook. I see.
Okay, so there's the confirmation. At top rank play, you cannot afford to play the game the way the ranking system wants you to play it, and still get the best scores. It's very rare that this can happen, and when it does, it means the survivors are having a bad game. You have to slug, you have to kill quickly and efficiently in the top ranks, and it's not what the scoring system wants to see.
There's the scene that way.
Person who could be rank 1 and almost never lose a game with them. Just because how good of a killer or how good of a specific killer they are. And hopefully this shines a bit of light and it helps both sides understand each other and bridge the gap. Tru3Ta1ent isn't wrong. The Wraith is a good killer, and he's absolutely amazing to rank up for sure. And he...
Okay, so the Wraith being a good killer and the Wraith having potential does not make him viable. All that Tru3Ta1ent has really proven is that with the right add-ons, a player can make the Wraith do really well.
I think has found his playstyle. You can if you watch him, it's quite a joy. He seems very happy. He really enjoys it. And just like I
enjoy
like
feeling
playing
I'm in
Trapper,
control.
he's found quite a bit of success in it. You people should not ridicule him. That does not help. And
Okay, yeah, Oz is definitely right here. Ridiculing people for their opinion does nothing but show off how small-minded or opposed to the concept of changing your perceptions you are. You can have a different opinion than someone and still have a civil, productive conversation with them.
he should perhaps also open up to criticism and see the merit of other people's ideas. Because I
Also correct. This is a difficult thing to do, though. Being willing to open up to criticism and allow your opinion to be altered isn't easy, and at first it can hurt the ego. But once you experience the benefits of it, it becomes a welcome thing. To Tru3Ta's credit, he does listen to feedback. I mean, he likely won't remember it, but he and I had a short discussion on Twitter on how I thought it was sad that most players won't experiment with killer builds and will only wait for a popular YouTuber to tell them that it is or isn't good. But we had a civil conversation about it. Nobody insulted anyone, and it was cool.
think that this is a really fun game. I think that each killer has a lot of potential if we just take a little bit of time to discover it, and we would all be much happier if we did that instead of just shit talking each other. But anyway, those are my 2 cents. If the situation develops and some more information comes to light, I'll be happy to cover it.
Oz, Tru, I would love to see your response to my opinion. You don't even have to do a video of it. You can put it down here in the comments, or, DM me on Twitter, or DM me on YouTube if you want. Either way, I'd love to get your response somehow. I'd be more than happy to, see that. This video is to express my opinion on this whole thing by comparing it to the 2 primary mindsets that are currently being expressed.
I'll maybe change my mind if there's more information. But that was all. I hope that you guys found this quite interesting. I certainly had a lot of fun putting it together, and I hope it does a little bit of good for the community. You guys can also do a little good for the community by, having civil conversations, not just with Tru3Ta1ent, but with each other and with everyone else. I think.
Preach it. Civil conversations seem to be a thing of the past these days for some reason. You can learn a lot from them. So the more people who encourage civil conversations, the better.
Help a lot. That was all. Thank you so much for watching.
That's pretty much what it finishes. So yeah, I can see a win as different. I see it as the rank up, because that's all I can really. I don't know why you wouldn't rank up if you've won. I cannot get over that. But if you see it that way, then yeah, you can just slug and get 3 kills. I mean, if 3 kills is a win, you can definitely do that, especially with slugs with anyone. So I completely understand where his head's at. That's not where my head's at though. My head's at following the game rules, and the game rules are you need, well, the game winning condition is ranking up, right? I mean, I don't know a game what would keep you in place if you won. So that's something I can't get over that hurdle. It doesn't make sense.
Okay, so this is understandable, and it's also where a lot of contention from each camp stems from. Oz focuses on accomplishing the killer's role to consider a win. Tru3Ta1ent focuses on what the game tells him is a win condition to rank up. If someone isn't concerned with rank, is it wrong to consider just getting 3 or 4 Ks a win? Since the game doesn't have an unranked mode, you can't really expect everyone who plays to be a rank-focused player. If you want to rank up, there's a specific set of conditions that you have to meet to do so. In this way, if you meet those conditions, you win. If you simply want to be good at your role, the game system won't necessarily reward you for performing that role at the expense of all of its other requirements to rank up. But killing all the survivors is still a win for people who care about their role and not their rank. I'm actually curious if this would make sense to Tru, or just be more logical to Tru, if there was an unranked mode and people considered getting 3 or 4Ks a win in that. Is it only confusing because we can only play in ranked matches and people still consider 3 or 4Ks without ranking up a win?
Let's do it. It's like getting 3 out of 3 in Overwatch draw and making it a win makes no sense. That's what I'm on about. It doesn't make sense to me. He also has lower standards of viable than you. Yeah, I think he does. His standards of viable is being able to win the majority. My standard of viable is able to win anyone. There isn't going to be a team which you cannot win and is impossible to win. You could always have a chance at winning them. And not just by one-hooking everyone, by actually winning chases and stopping gem pressure. So we definitely have a different idea of what viable is, and that's probably where, you know, we're split on that.
So the one camp for viable is, can the killer kill most of the survivors? This is Oz. While the other camp is Tru's, which asks, can the killer apply pressure through the game and stop the survivors from winning in order to pip up? I don't think either of these is necessarily higher or lower standards. They're different standards for different mindsets and approaches to the game. Oz's standards is for a player who doesn't care about rank. Tru's standards is for someone who does care about rank. Both are legitimate standards. My standard for viability differs entirely because my standard asks, can the killer win the game without anything adding to their power or making the game easier for them? And my standard for winning is killing at least 2 of the survivors while ranking up. I personally feel that my standard for winning is more in line with the scoring system, while my standard for viability is more easily proven. If you want to prove a killer's viability, you need a few constant factors like the same map, the same skilled levels of survivors, though this is a relative standard since everyone is at a different skill level, and nothing altering the killer's abilities. The only true variable in this question of viability is the killer's base kit without enhancements. Would Wraith be anywhere close to Ghostface without his Clapper or Windstorm add-ons? I highly doubt it. Would Wraith be on par with Pig without his Clapper and Windstorm add-ons? Again, I doubt it. Ghostface and Pig can use their stealth to mind game and sneak up on survivors mid-chase without alerting the entire map. But they also have the ability to either insta-down a survivor, Ghostface, or force them to a completely different objective entirely to waste time, the Pig. This is all without add-ons. All 3 are stealth killers, but without their add-ons, Wraith isn't remotely as viable as the other 2. Wraith's add-ons are what can make his builds good, but it doesn't make the Wraith himself viable the way I look at it, because add-ons are not reliable pieces of a killer's kit. They're Bloodwed dependent. Wraith is not consistently performing as well as Ghostface or Pig without add-ons because his base kit doesn't allow the variety of gameplay as Ghostface or Pig.
In my definition of viable, I don't think there is consistent killers who can definitely go against the best survivors and consistently win.
But see, the keyword here is consistently, and you're saying consistent killers. If you have to rely on specific add-ons to make a killer capable of doing what you need it to do to be viable, that's not consistency, that's contingency. Contingency on add-ons means that without them, the killer wouldn't perform as well and will fall below your level of viability. You can't say a killer is viable if it is contingent upon the add-ons.
On his definition of viable, I think, even on his definition, you're going to pretty much have to slug right at the end or something, or just slug just in general in the whole game. But I do think slugging is, a potential. It's almost once again like Plastifix, where the game wants you to do free chases and free hooks, right, on every survivor. Slugging negates 66% of the game if you slug all 4 and then one hook them all, because you've took away the other 2 chases they were supposed to have, and that's why I believe that you're black pip, because you're still 4-manned, but you took away 66.6% recurring.
But by slugging and one-hooking, you performed your role efficiently. You did what you were supposed to do. But the game instead rewards you for playing inefficiently. That's backwards for a rank-based point system. And this is something that needs to be recognized by the devs when they create killers like the Oni, who is encouraged to slug.
Part of the game away. So of course you're not going to get all the points, are you? But yeah, it's interesting. It's nice that it can open up communication, but I definitely don't agree that every killer is viable in my sense. Is every killer viable in his sense? Potentially. Even then it's going to be difficult, because if you go against a really, really strong team and even slug, I think it's still going to be quite a difficult one.
True. Oz's definition of viable means you can get good enough with a killer where you can regularly 3 or 4K, but that's because you're focused on just that killer, and you learn the responses survivors have for that killer and can respond to them quicker. That's your response time to a learned behavior, not the killer's proficiency for taking out survivors. This isn't viability, it's an example of specialization.
You can't get the sacrifice points when you slug, yeah. It feels like a win when you kill 3 to 4. That's why it's up to the individual. Yeah, but it isn't just about the end result. It's the same for Survivor. Like, I don't know why people are so obsessed with the end result in this game, and they don't realise it's a scoring system game.
Okay, everyone knows it's a scoring system game, but you've already admitted the scoring system is flawed. But again, some people don't care about the score because the score is only there for your rank. Some people care about the result because the rank doesn't matter to them. Actual game results are more important to these kinds of players than their score. You can't argue and say that the killer didn't win because they got a 4K and a low score. The killer performed his role perfectly. They killed all 4 survivors. Just because they did it in a manner that the game's admittedly flawed scoring system doesn't reward them for does not negate the win. It simply negates the ability to rank up.
It's a scoring system game which it rewards you for hitting marks. So for Survivor, you have to hit certain marks, you have to do a certain amount of chase, you have to do a certain amount of gens, you have to do a certain amount of unhooks, you have to hit these marks. And once you've hit these marks, you don't need to escape. An escape is just another mark. It isn't the end goal, it's a mark that you tick off. And it's the same with Killer. Getting all 4Ks is a mark that you tick off. It isn't the whole picture. The whole picture is how many chases, how many hooks, how many hits, how much delaying. Like, it's everything. It's the whole picture. And I think that's where my perception of this game branches away from other people's.
Okay, but this is because Tru's perception of the game is as a rank-focused player. But achieving a specific mark and achieving your role's goal is totally different. A survivor's goal is in their title, to survive. A killer's goal is in their title, to kill. A survivor who doesn't survive may rank up, but the player can still feel like they lost because they didn't achieve their goal. Likewise, a killer might rank up, but still feel like they lost because they didn't get a 3 or 4K. They didn't achieve the goal set before them, and that's the key difference. Both sides have a goal set for them at the beginning of the game, survive or kill. They can achieve these goals in a number of different ways, but they're only rewarded with points or ranking up by hitting certain marks in the scoring system. But survivors don't lose the game if they survived. They achieved their goal. They lived. And the killers don't lose the game if they kill all 4 survivors, but they didn't do it in a way that let them rank up. They still killed everyone. Goals were achieved even if ranks were not. That can still be considered a win.
I think my perception of the game is more aligned with the actual design of the game. I seriously do. But it's definitely not aligned with other people's opinions, where they feel like you need to 3 man or 4K no matter what. Like, you can just slug them, but not do anything else in the game.
Okay, I think Tru's perception is actually aligned with the game's scoring and ranking system, not so much the design of the game, which is to survive as a survivor and kill as a killer. Rank doesn't really reward you with anything or give you any kind of bonus. And until it does, it really only demonstrates your ability to play the game within the confines of the scoring system against a mixture of players who do and don't care about the scoring system, and not much else. Not every player is playing competitively. but they are having to play in a ranked system that they don't necessarily care about. And to limit what is a win to just the scoring system when a good portion of the people you play against don't care about it is limiting one's ability to consider what a win can be. Until we get unranked and ranked lobby options, these two different playstyles will always be lumped together, and saying that one style considers a win to be illogical is just reductive when the game gives you a goal to achieve with a system that rewards you for not achieving that goal efficiently.
When I play a game, I try and just follow it by its rules and try and play it at its most optimal towards its rules that it's given me. And slugging definitely is not a way the game wants you to play. Slugging.
Okay, no. Slugging isn't the way the scoring system wants you to play, but it is an efficient way to play the game for certain killers, builds, and playstyles. The game is fine with slugging. It's the scoring and ranking system that isn't fine with slugging. But the rank system isn't the game you're playing. The matches are the game you're playing. The scoring just says how well you did within its set parameters. It doesn't care if you achieved your role's goal or not.
A bit is okay, but slugging to one-hook everyone? No, the game will not reward you for that.
Okay, the game doesn't reward you for playing well within the score's confines either. Ranking up isn't really a reward. You don't get anything for ranking up other than seeing less perk variety and more homogenized builds for optimal performance within the scoring system. That's all you get for ranking up. So, at this point, Tru basically just goes through and starts thanking everyone for their contributions to his stream and all that, so we can move on to my final thoughts. Right now we have different opinions for players who approach the game from different ways. Tru's definition of viable considers how well a killer can do with perks and add-ons within the game's ranking system. Oz's definition of viable is how often a player can get a 3 or 4k with a killer, again with add-ons and perks, without much consideration for the ranking system. And my definition of viable is whether a killer can get at least 2 kills and still rank up without perks or add-ons to make them better at their role. This, to me, is the logical starting point when you consider a killer's viability. Can the killer achieve the optimal 50% kill rate and still rank up before any enhancements to their base kit? I look at this as the baseline where every killer should be considered from, since that's where they start. And they do not have equivalent add-ons that improve their performances across the board, so you can't really judge them based with add-ons. So looking at killers with their add-ons is looking at killers who are enhanced to extreme various degrees. I think a killer's viability should be looked at by what they can do before they're enhanced with perks and add-ons, and that anything after that becomes a discussion on how good a certain killer's build is, and not how good that killer is. I also don't think we should limit our opinions on what is and isn't a win to a ranked scoring system when you can easily find players who aren't playing with concern to rank. Survivors want to escape, killers want to kill. Tru goes against some of the most extreme survivor teams, but they're all trying super hard to not rank up because they're already mostly rank 1s. They're trying super hard to survive. That's not something easily deniable. Are they trying not to derank? Sure, but nothing about their builds or behaviors suggests that they're afraid of not achieving the goal at the start of the match. But these are all different opinions, and they can be discussed and considered from various perspectives, which are mostly all valid from different points of view. I hope that this has helped me share my opinion on the issues, and I hope that I can get some constructive feedback from anybody who watches the video. But I'd like to wrap up the video, and thank you all for watching this far if you've managed to get all the way through it. Please give the video a like if you enjoyed it or found my opinions worthy of consideration. Or give it a dislike if you didn't enjoy the video or you think my opinions are just flat out wrong. I hope you all have a great day, and as always, stay positive.